The tactical landscape just shifted, and the Marine Corps just proved they're not waiting for permission to change it. HMLA-169. If you don't recognize that designation, you will. Because this isn't just another helicopter squadron. This is the unit that just demonstrated a level of firepower integration that has forced strategists, defense contractors, and rival military planners to reassess everything they thought they knew about rotary wing air support. The Gatling gun they're running isn't new. The concept isn't revolutionary on paper. But how they're deploying it, where they're deploying it, and the strategic implications of what comes next, that's where this gets dangerous. Most people miss one thing. Air superiority doesn't belong to fighter jets anymore. Not entirely. Not when a helicopter gunship can deliver suppressive fire with precision, loiter over contested terrain for hours, and vanish before enemy air defenses can even lock on. The Marine Corps just proved they understand something that's been quietly reshaping modern warfare, and they're moving faster than anyone expected. Let's talk about what HMLA-169 actually is. Light attack helicopter squadrons aren't glamorous. They don't get the budget allocations that fighter wings do. They don't generate the same media attention. But they solve a problem that modern doctrine can't ignore. How do you maintain fire superiority in complex terrain without committing fixed wing assets that are expensive, conspicuous, and vulnerable in low-altitude environments? HMLA-169 operates the UH-1Y Venom and AH-1Z Viper. The Viper is the attack variant. It's got composite fuselage technology, digital glass cockpit, integrated fire control systems. But raw aircraft capability only tells half the story. The real revolution is what happens when you pair that airframe with the GAU-21 Gatling gun system. Here's the specific innovation. For decades, attack helicopters relied on a mixed loadout. Hellfire missiles for standoff strikes, Hydra rockets for area targets, and guns as a backup. The gun was secondary. It was what you used when you were out of better options. Ammunition was finite, accuracy at range was limited. Sustained fire meant burning through ordnance fast. The GAU-21 changes that calculation entirely. 6,000 rounds per minute. That's not just volume, that's precision volume. Integrated electro-optical targeting. Fire control that compensates for aircraft movement, wind, distance, target speed. When you're flying low, fast, and trying to identify threats through dust, smoke, or concealment, you need fire control that works. The Gatling system delivers that. But what makes this genuinely disruptive? The gun becomes primary, not secondary. Why? Because in low-altitude environments against dispersed mobile ground targets, precision gun fire is more effective than missiles. Missiles are designed for static targets, pre-planned coordinates, known positions. But when you're supporting ground forces moving through urban terrain or rough country, targets are moving. They're concealed. They're mixed with civilian populations. A Hellfire is overkill and politically problematic. A Hydra rocket is inaccurate at close range. A Gatling gun with integrated fire control, it's surgical. That changes everything about helicopter employment. Previously, a Viper would carry 16 Hellfires, maybe 38 Hydra rockets, and the gun as security. The helicopter would arrive, expend ordnance, and leave. Limited loiter time because fuel is finite and ordnance was the mission. With the GAU-21 as primary, the calculus reverses. The helicopter carries fewer missiles and rockets, reserved for specific high-value targets, and relies on the gun for sustained suppressive fire. That means the aircraft can stay on station longer. Fuel lasts longer when you're not burning ordnance. The pilot can engage multiple targets sequentially, rather than expending expensive missiles on every threat. The operational payoff is enormous. A single Viper with integrated Gatling gun capability can provide what previously required 2 or 3 helicopters with mixed loadouts. That's not just efficiency, that's force multiplication. You maintain air superiority over a larger area with fewer aircraft, fewer pilots, less logistical overhead. Now let's talk about what this means for peer competition. The United States has been watching how China and Russia build air defense networks. Not to achieve air superiority, they know they can't beat the US Air Force in conventional air combat. Instead, they're building denial capabilities, systems designed to make American air operations unacceptably expensive. China's focus is the South China Sea and Taiwan Strait. They've deployed HQ-9 air defense systems, naval air defense networks, and integrated radar coverage. The goal isn't to win battles. It's to create a zone where American aircraft operations require such overwhelming force, such careful planning, and accept such risk that political leaders hesitate to commit. Russia took a different path, but learned the same lesson in Ukraine. When you face an enemy with air superiority, you don't build a bigger air force. You build enough air defense that the enemy can't operate at medium and high altitude without losses. You force them to operate low and slow, where terrain provides concealment and where your own air defense becomes increasingly effective. Both strategies rely on the same assumption that American air superiority is established at altitude. Control the sky at 20,000 feet and above, and you control everything below. The Gatling gun integration HMLA-169 just demonstrated challenges that assumption fundamentally, because it proves the US can maintain persistent fire superiority at altitudes where traditional air defense is less effective and where precision is actually more important than raw firepower. Think about the tactical problem from an adversary's perspective. You've invested billions in medium-range air defense systems. They're effective against fighters operating at 15,000 feet or higher. They're sophisticated enough to track fast-moving jets. But a helicopter flying at 500 feet, using terrain to mask its approach, engaging targets with precision fire control, and then breaking away, that's a different problem. Your air defense systems can't track it effectively. Your air defense network can't coordinate fast enough. By the time your short-range systems acquire it, it's already engaged its target and is moving away. Now you have to invest in a completely different layer of air defense. You need man-portable air defense systems. You need short-range radar. You need lower altitude coverage. You need redundancy because a helicopter can attack from multiple directions using terrain. The cost multiplies. That's why this matters strategically. China could respond by accelerating their own attack helicopter programs. They have the Z-10 and Z-20 platforms, but integrating them into a coordinated doctrine, training pilots to operate effectively at low altitude in contested airspace, establishing logistics chains, that takes time. It takes institutional change. It takes acceptance that manned helicopters are valuable, which doesn't align with their emphasis on unmanned and robotic warfare. Russia's in a different position. They've lost significant helicopter fleets in Ukraine, partly because they underestimated air defense integration by Ukrainian forces. They've learned that helicopters in contested environments require protection, coordination, and tactical discipline. But they lack the advanced fire control systems that make low-altitude precision fire effective. Their Gatling gun equivalents are older, less accurate, less reliable. Integrating them into modern doctrine would require significant investment. Both competitors now face a dilemma. Do they invest in counters to low-altitude helicopter operations, or do they assume those operations remain niche and focus resources elsewhere? The answer matters because it shapes force structure and doctrine across the entire defense establishment. Allied nations are watching this closely. Japan operates helicopters extensively and faces Chinese air defense networks across the East China Sea. South Korea has similar concerns regarding North Korea and Chinese capabilities. Australia's building force structure around distributed, resilient air capabilities. The Philippines is operating in an archipelago where terrain and island geography favor helicopter operations. When they see HMLA-169 demonstrating precision Gatling gun employment, it validates a strategic direction they're already considering. It shows that rotary wing platforms with advanced fire control aren't auxiliary support. They're central to contested environment operations. The defense industry has already begun positioning for this shift. Gatling gun production is ramping up. Ammunition supply chains are expanding. Companies are developing new targeting pods optimized for helicopter platforms. Integration with unmanned systems is being explored. The market opportunity here is substantial, not just new airframes, but the entire ecosystem around precision low-altitude air operations. But let's address the counter-argument directly. Helicopters are still vulnerable. A Viper flying at 500 feet is still within range of modern short-range air defense. It can be targeted by drones. It has limited speed and can't outrun missiles. The Gatling gun's effective range is finite. If an adversary establishes a sufficiently dense air defense network at low altitude, helicopters still face serious risk. That's absolutely true, and the Marine Corps knows it. HMLA-169 doesn't operate independently. It operates as part of integrated air operations where fighters at medium altitude suppress enemy air defense, electronic warfare assets jam tracking radars, and unmanned systems provide reconnaissance. The helicopter doesn't succeed because it's invulnerable. It succeeds because the tactical environment is shaped to make its operation feasible. The Gatling gun's role in that equation is enabling sustained precision fire that doesn't require missile expenditure for every target. That preserves ordnance for high-value targets. It extends loiter time. It provides flexibility when the tactical situation changes rapidly, which it does in close air support and fire support missions. Here's the broader doctrinal shift this represents. For the past 30 years, American air superiority doctrine emphasized overwhelm. More fighters, more missiles, more technology, defeat the enemy through superior numbers and capability across every domain simultaneously. That approach works when you're fighting an opponent with minimal air defense. It becomes problematic when you're facing an adversary who's accepted that they can't achieve air superiority, so they've instead built denial capabilities. Their goal isn't to beat you, it's to make beating them expensive enough that political will erodes. The Gatling gun integration shows the US military is shifting toward a different approach of resilience, distribution, and precision. Instead of concentrating air power through a few high-end platforms, you distribute it across multiple platforms at multiple altitudes. Instead of relying on overwhelming force, you rely on precise, persistent capability that's harder to counter comprehensively. That's philosophically different from the doctrine that dominated the 1990s and 2000s. It's also a recognition that contested environments are the future, not the exception, not the anomaly, the baseline operating environment for military planning. What happens operationally is that rotary wing platforms shift from supporting roles to primary roles in certain missions. Close air support, fire support coordination, sustained suppressive fire, these become helicopter missions first, fighter missions when necessary. Force structure gradually reflects that shift. Training emphasis changes. Pilot career paths evolve. Logistics footprints change. You'll see HMLA-169 and similar squadrons deployed forward more frequently, in larger numbers, in regions where air defense networks are established. The South China Sea, the Strait of Taiwan, Eastern Europe if the NATO-Russia situation escalates, the Middle East, where it's already happening. Operationally, that means helicopter pilots face greater risk than they did in permissive environments. That means higher pilot fatigue from contested operations. That means casualty potential is higher. The military is accepting that trade because the alternative, concentrating air power in ways that expose it to coordinated air defense, is worse. Strategic competitors understand what HMLA-169 just demonstrated. They understand that American air superiority now depends on capability across multiple altitudes and multiple platform types. Countering that requires building defense networks that address every altitude, every speed range, every tactical employment. The cost is enormous. The burden on air defense systems to provide comprehensive protection is substantial. That's the strategic pressure HMLA-169's demonstration creates. It forces competitors to either accept that some airspace will remain under American control or invest massive resources in air defense layers. Both outcomes favor American interests. Acceptance means operational success. Massive investment means competitors divert resources from other military priorities. The Gatling gun is ultimately just the tool that makes this work. The real innovation is recognizing that precision fire from a platform that can loiter, that can maneuver, that can operate at altitudes and speeds where it's harder to engage. That's the future of fire support. HMLA-169 has just shown the world that the Marine Corps understands this. They're investing in doctrine and capability for the contested environment we're actually facing. They're not waiting for perfect conditions. They're not assuming permissive airspace. That shift from assuming air superiority to actively competing for it against distributed threats, that's what the Gatling gun integration represents. And it means the era of uncontested rotary wing operations is ending. The era of contested, low-altitude, precision fire support is beginning. That changes how regional military balance develops. That changes deterrence calculations. That changes what happens if conflict actually ignites in places like Taiwan or the South China Sea. Because now, the calculus includes a layer of capability that didn't matter as much before. Now low-altitude air operations become central. Now the helicopter with a Gatling gun isn't support. It's a primary tool for maintaining fire superiority. That's the real story. And HMLA-169 just made it impossible to ignore.